Live from Sin City, it's the Socks and Pinstripes Podcast. And now, here's the star of the show, Giant Dr. Griffin!
This is Diet Dr. Griffin back with another episode of the Socks and Pinstripes Podcast. Like, rate, subscribe. I'm also putting the episodes up on YouTube. Shane's with us today. How are you doing, Shane?
I'm doing well. And however, I will say that for the first time since I was a child, I was stung by a wasp 2 days ago. And it didn't hurt as bad as I thought it would. But today it is so I want to just like scratch my skin off. It's that itchy today.
How did you end up getting stung by a wasp?
So I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often because I am a mailman. So I was out walking around, and the irony of it was I didn't go to an address that was kind of overgrown with flowers that had a bunch of bees and wasps in it because I didn't want to get stung. And then literally 30 minutes later, I'm just walking down the sidewalk and some wasp dive bombs into my shoe, gets, squished. So it gets scared, stings me on the ankle twice, and then flies out of my shoe. I'm just like, what? Come on, dude. Like,
how did it get in your shoe? How did it get in your shoe?
It just like dive bombed in my shoe. I don't even know why it went in there. So I just feel this like super sharp pain like twice. I just feel like it went like in through my ankle, and I look down and a wasp flies out of my shoe, and I'm just like, okay, I guess that's happening today. So how are you, Griffin? Hopefully not stung by any insects. So
No, we don't have any insects out here this time of year. Everything is so hot, they die. And they don't.
They die.
Maybe except for cockroaches, but thankfully I haven't had to deal with really any of those this year.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they can be. For whatever reason, they're just scary. I mean, they're not scary, but they're scary. Did you know that they actually will clean themselves after touched by like a human being?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because normally we think of them as dirty insects eating poop or whatever, but apparently we're the germy people to them.
Well, that's unexpected.
I know.
Really unexpected turn there with this conversation.
When I heard that, I was like, wow, that is interesting. It gives a new perspective. So
yeah, I'll think about that next time I run into one. So this past week, we had the All-Star game and the Home Run Derby. We'll start talking about the Home Run Derby first. And I know you knew this, but for the listeners, we in our fantasy baseball league had a little contest for the past couple of years about picking the Home Run Derby winners. And this year they changed the format on us because they did not do the standard bracket, head-to-head bracket the entire way through. This year they had the first.
Yeah, how did you feel about that, by the way? Because I don't know. It just felt weird watching it, but I guess it was exciting at the end. But I was curious what your thoughts on the new four.
I mean, I liked the style of it. It made it harder to predict, but
yeah, that's great.
I think the way that it goes, not having the head-to-head stuff, I think just kind of makes it a little easier. I think they've had this kind of format in the past.
Okay.
I don't remember. They've kind of tweaked the Home Run Derby quite a bit over the years. I wouldn't even say that's the biggest tweak, honestly, to the Derby, but we'll get to that. So
okay.
we had the contest where we would pick it, and we were awful at picking the we were terrible.
It was bad. It was real bad.
Yeah. Of the top eight participants, the 6 participants in our picking, each of us only picked 1 out of the top 4 correctly. Everybody except for myself had Teoscar Hernandez finishing 6th.
Yeah, that was interesting that none of us talking to each other all put him in the same place.
Except for me, I had him second because
Yeah.
I had a weird feeling that he would do that.
You
And
had the Teoscar tingle, man.
maybe it's just because I like to say Teoscar the Grouch or something. I don't know. There's some
Yeah.
weird guy that just comes out of the middle of nowhere and does something in that derby. And then of course we all thought that like Alec Boehm and Bobby Witt Jr. pretty much would be in the bottom half. None of us had like them making it anywhere near the top.
Yep.
You guys all had Jose
I
Ramirez
had
doing.
Wit ranked the highest in my defense.
Yeah,
So
I think you
oh,
had
Lily and I did. Yeah, yeah,
you had him fifth.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't show everybody the results of everything until the end. So I got to compile it all and then show it to them afterwards. I will say that the way that they did the bracket made it a lot harder to figure out who the heck would win the contest.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
Well, like I was trying to figure out how to mathematically figure out who would do the best. And if like Teoscar didn't win, I would have been like scrambling to figure out how to decide the winner.
Oh, gotcha.
Because I think a couple people had had Jose Ramirez finishing second, and I think one person may have picked it correctly. So do I give it to the person with the exacto, or do I give it to the person that thought it would go the farthest? So I'll
Oh,
have
yeah.
to figure
I
that
see what
out
you're
for
saying.
next year.
Yeah, I see what you're saying now. Yeah.
Now, some of the changes they did in the Derby were interesting this year because they limited the number of pitches that everybody would get. Normally, you would have like 3 minutes to, uh, have pitches thrown at you, but you wouldn't necessarily have a cap on the number of them. This year, you had like 40 per round total. So that was the interesting
Yeah,
dynamic.
that was yeah, because a lot of some of the guys like didn't even finish, and I thought it seemed like they had plenty of time, but then it would come down to the wire, and some of them left like 5 pitches on the table, or I thought that was an interesting dynamic to add to it as well.
Yeah, I was one of the unique elements of the home run derby is that each person has their own special bullpen guy that's throwing them the pitches.
Yeah. Oh,
And some,
wait, whose pitcher did you think did the best, and whose did you think did the worst? Because I know I have a definite candidate for the worst.
I mean, I'm gonna say that Teoscars did the best because he managed to win the whole thing.
Yep. I mean, I would agree with you there. But whose do you think like really did him a disservice?
I mean, Pete Alonso's been bad the last 2 years at the Derby. He's been so bad.
Yeah. I thought, well, and did you see his pitcher was throwing like two seam fastballs with movement at some points in time up high? I was like, all right, well, I guess that's happening. So,
Yeah, I was listening to another podcast and they put out the suggestion that they should just have a pitch machine throw the pitches.
which would make sense. I mean, I
Allow
feel like
everybody
the
allow
pitch
everybody to
machine,
make the settings that they want on the pitch machine, like it's unique to
or
how
do you
they
make
throw it.
everyone hit to the same settings though?
No, no, you allow each hitter to have their own rhythm with the pitching machines. Because the
Yeah.
machines nowadays are so sophisticated. They can duplicate people's curveballs and pitch it. They
Oh
duplicate
yeah, those
off speed
traject
stuff.
machines are crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Just the suggestion that I heard was just let them use whatever settings that they want, whatever speeds they want, and then just let the pitching machine do that so that they can have more consistent throws. Because the whole point of the contest, and they grade you on the contest like with the distances that you're hitting the pitches too. It's not just that you're hitting home runs, but you get bonuses if you hit over 425 feet.
Yeah, that's right.
So why not? If this is an exhibition, why not just let them have at it with the precise mechanical approach that they want?
Well, I'm going to have to say no, only because I'm also against robot umpires. So I feel like in order to stay consistent, I have to want there to be a bullpen guy out there.
I can understand that. I can understand. We got $1 million riding on the line. We got to have human beings do it.
I
I
say
mean,
no to the machines. No to the machines.
no.
It was super. So watching Teoscars, I mean, the first round, not that big deal, but the swing off and then the final was super exciting.
Yeah, yeah, it went down to the absolute wire with him and Witt. And Witt
Man, and
impressed.
Witt
Witt
missed it
impressed
by
quite a
what,
bit.
like a foot? Yeah.
Yeah, it
How
was.
would a swing off in the final would have been great too. So
Yeah. So, what did you think about the All-Star game itself?
I thought the All-Star game was pretty awesome, honestly. I mean, I'm biased. I'm a fan of baseball. But it seems like as far as all-star games in sports, this one is played with maybe the most effort, especially in the last 2 years. It seems like the teams really they're having fun out there, don't get me wrong, but it seems like they also really want to beat each other and be the winner. And this one was, no different. Although I will say that I feel like Max Fried injured himself in the All Star game, and that's why he's on the IL right now. But what did you think about it? I mean, that watching Jalen Duran hit that 2-run home run to give us the lead. I'm an AL guy with the Mariners. To give us the lead over the NL I was just like, oh.
I liked how I got to make a Tanner Hawk to a joke to one of my friends on texting because he forgot to spit on the ball before Ohtani hit that 3-run homer.
Oh, yeah, dude. And it was, yeah. Yeah, I thought it was pretty great how he bounced right back though. And that's one thing that I think Tanner Hawk's really good at, is not letting, game spiral away from him. I feel like he, when he was younger, he kind of that would happen. But he locked it back down, got out of the inning, and then whoever came up for the NL just let the AL play small ball all over him to to tie the game back up.
I think Logan Webb, I believe, was the one who gave up the 3 runs.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It was because I remember being super surprised because I was like, "Oh, this guy's is like the ace of the Giants pitching staff." So,
Yeah, and
what was well,
what's interesting about Tanner Hawk was that I had thought he was going to end up being the closer of the Red Sox at some point because I didn't think he could figure out how to pitch through the lineup the third time.
yeah, yeah,
Then he ends up being the best starter the Red Sox have had this year. So
yeah,
that was a
which was
big
great for
surprise.
me because I took a chance on him earlier in the season. So,
Yeah, I could have taken him too. I think I chose a couple other guys, and I'm happy with the guys that I've had, but Tanner Hawk has
oh
been
yeah,
a real big surprise for the Red Sox this year.
yeah. I mean, you can't be mad at your team. You're in first place. So,
No, I'm not. I'm not mad at my team at all. I mean, I'll analyze my draft afterwards because I think that's honestly where I failed, but
yeah,
that's neither here nor there.
yeah. Well, what was your favorite sequence in the game? Which inning, which pitcher, which batters?
I mean, the one thing that I really like the whole Paul Skeens at the beginning of the game. That was one I was definitely watching quite a
Yeah,
bit, and I love the how Juan Soto was like, I'm gonna make sure Aaron Judge gets in a bat. And
yeah, that was
how
pretty
and
funny.
how did and honestly I gotta say this, MLB probably does the lineups for this. How
Yeah,
do you not make it a guarantee that Judge is facing Skeens?
yeah. I don't know. I
Like you've
mean,
already rigged it so that Skeens is gonna be the guy at the top. Let's be
yeah,
honest.
yeah.
Like you couldn't just put Judge up there. I mean, you had to put like Stephen Kwan first.
I mean, but Stephen, the interesting thing about Stephen Kwan is he makes the most contact. So I mean, that's kind of exciting in and of itself.
Yeah, but you got to make sure you can't do it at the expense of putting Judge fourth and then risking that matchup not happening.
Well, they weren't risking it because Juan Soto promised he'd get him up.
I know, but like promise, I mean, they got lucky is what happened, and then Judge squanders it.
Yeah,
But
because he
I
could have
think,
got easily rung up as that third strike right there, too. So
yeah, maybe MLB put something into that guy. It's like make sure Juan Soto walks if you can.
yeah, exactly. Like if it's on the edge, just walk him. So
Yeah.
I think mine would have been Mason Miller, his series facing Otani. I forget who other than who was after Otani in the lineup, but his 1, 2, 3 inning.
Turner hit after Otani.
Yeah, and he rung up Otani and then froze Turner with that slider on the top rail. It was just really fun to watch. So,
One thing that stood out to me was just how massive Garrett Crochet is.
oh yeah, dude, that's a
I did
big
not
boy right
realize
there.
like he was just that jacked.
Yeah, no, it's pretty impressive. I mean, we'll see. That's like the big question mark on him is if he's traded, will he be good? Will he be a help or not? So
But we'll get to Garrett Crochet in a little bit. I gotta say though about the All-Star game, those uniforms were awful.
oh my God, thank you. I was for a minute, I was thought you might like try to find something redeemable in them, but everything about it was absolutely terrible.
The American League were
Terrible.
worse than the National League. I mean, the National League were kind of below average, but the American League were just awful.
Yeah, it was like blinding salmon is like the color that I would describe
Ugh,
it as.
very beigey, very beigey.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is what happened when the Red Sox got, not the Red Sox, the MLB got in bed with Nike. I think what
Oh
I
yeah.
don't, I haven't
They
done
all took
enough research.
ayahuasca in a circle with someone's shaman, and this is the jerseys they came up with. So
I think what happened was is that MLB had an arrangement with Under Armour, and then
oh,
of course I'm looking this up literally as I'm thinking about it. I believe they had a arrangement with Under Armour, and something happened where they couldn't fulfill the contract or whatever. I think Under Armour had some financial issues, and then
interesting. That makes sense because I haven't heard Under Armour or seen it in a while. So
yeah, so apparently, um, what happened was is that Under Armour, I'm looking this up. Under Armour apparently canceled the supplying contract with
nice.
MLB because they were running into issues. And
Yeah.
so like MLB had to desperately get in with Nike because they
Mm.
needed something to get going. And then I think Nike was able to kind of pull a fast one on um, MLB and get them to do certain things that they probably didn't want to do, like having to make all these wacky all-star jerseys to try to make more money and have things you got to buy.
Yeah. I mean, they could. I mean, the what was the year where they did like the black and gold? They could have done something like that. It would have been much better than what they turned out. So
I mean, I think that was a couple years ago they did the black and gold.
yeah. Those jerseys were like simple and clean. And at first I didn't like them, but after seeing this year's jerseys and then when I was watching the game, it kind of referenced that year. And I was
Mhm.
like, wow, those are so much better than this year's. So,
Yeah, and the Nike contract also had like them putting the swoosh on the jerseys, on all the jerseys, not just like the
yeah.
All-Star jerseys. And that was a giant controversial moment having the Nike logo on the jerseys.
Well,
Uh,
now they got sponsors on the sleeve anyway. So,
yeah, that was sort of like the beginning of that. And then I think during the last CBA, I think they allowed the sponsorship aspect of things
yeah.
to occur. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see more and more of that going forward because of how many teams are struggling with their TV situations.
Oh, absolutely. Pretty soon they're going to look like race car drivers' uniforms.
Soccer uniforms too.
Yeah, yeah, soccer uniform. I guess soccer would be more. That'd be a better comparison.
So going back to the All-Star game, the American League, of course, won it again for the like 10th time out of 11 years, just some ridiculous run.
Yeah.
What do you think the National League needs to do to really get off the schneid and turn it around for them? They just need to take the game more seriously or have Dave Roberts be the manager.
Right. No, I mean, Ellie De La Cruz did not steal a base. I don't know what was up with that, or even attempt to steal one. And not that I don't know if that would have put any pressure on anyone, but I mean, you got the leading base runner, and he's not stealing or even attempting to steal any bases once he gets on base. I mean, that's the hardest thing for him is to get on base, and then you don't even use the weapon on base when he's on there. I think better closing pitching, I guess, like bullpen stuff. I mean, their pitching is great. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great pitchers. And there's a lot of great young pitchers coming up to the National League. But I still think that the AL is just better in that category. And they have been better for quite a long time, in my opinion.
Yeah, it doesn't help the National League out when you've got a bunch of pitchers just deciding, they don't want to do it and getting owies or just like Chris Sale just saying, I don't want to do this. And even though Chris Sale still had to go to the game and everything, he was still on the line, but he's like, I want to pitch on Sunday, so I don't have to go pitch during the All-Star game. And then I don't even think Chris Sale is I think Chris Sale is the fifth starter out of the All-Star break, too.
Yeah, which is crazy.
He's resting like an entire week and a half, I think, before he's going to throw. I don't even know when he's pitching.
Yeah, sometime next week. So
yeah, I mean, he's not in the first three.
Chris Sale, I can understand though, because he's no spry young chicken anymore. So
yeah, he's had a massive injury history, so I can understand them not wanting to risk him getting injured in a meaningless game with the aspirations. And let's circle back to Max Fried, because you made an interesting comment about Max Fried injuring himself in the All-Star game, and he's now on the injured list.
Yeah, so I went back and I watched the highlights again just in preparation for the show. And after he throws that first slider, you can see his arm makes kind of like a weird motion, and he finishes out the inning, no big deal, but he's on the IL for retroactive to July 18th with forearm neuritis. So he probably should just have not pitched in the Midsummer Classic, but pitched anyways, and it probably aggravated it more because he didn't look. I mean, he looked great, and I think he got through the side facing the minimum, but it was just something. It was just on film when I looked at it after seeing that he's injured, it just looked like he was injured. So.
I was listening to the fantasy podcast for a while now, and they were talking about how one of the guys was talking about how they thought Max Fried was injured a lot earlier in the year and that he was playing through it. And he was struggling earlier, but then he started pitching really well, so they kind of just thought he figured it out.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought too. I didn't think the injured part, but I just thought, oh, he's just having a rough start, and then when he figured it out, I was like, oh, great. So
yeah, so he's a free agent in the offseason, so that's going to be a real interesting situation to see how he handles that, because he's one of these guys, get hurt right. It would be awful if he ended up having to get Tommy John surgery right before he's due for the big contract.
Yeah, well, he could always come to the Mariners. Jerry loves an injured duckling, so
he's a right-handed pitcher or a lefty?
Lefty. They need a lefty too. So.
Yeah, they definitely need lefty. Although I think they passed on Blake Snell last year, who was a lefty.
So it's because Jerry doesn't want to spend money, so you gotta. It's got to be
Yeah.
like there's got to be something wrong with the player, so they're cheap. Otherwise, Jerry won't go after
Do
them.
you
So,
think Jerry would have signed Blake Snell to the contract that Blake Snell actually ended up signing?
um, I would have hoped he would have. Honestly, Blake Snell wants to be in the Northwest too. So it's like one of those things that he actually wants to come here. And like not a whole lot of people want to come here. So I just don't honestly, I just don't know. I think then this is going to be irritate some people, but I don't care. I think the Mariners should sell at the deadline, get rid of the players who don't want to be here anymore, get rid of Jerry Dipoto, get rid of Scott Service, start over because they did the rebuild, they made the playoffs, and they're just getting worse now. The moves that Jerry is making to get better, to get back to the playoffs, are actually just making the team worse. So
That is definitely a hot take because the Mariners are a team that, based on their record, they should be buyers at the deadline, not sellers.
of course they should be
I mean,
buyers.
legit buyers. I mean, they up
Of
until
course,
a
but
couple of days ago,
Jerry
it
doesn't
was-
legit buy though. That's the problem. Is he'll just make some lateral trade. They'll still be bad, and then once the Astros take first place, we won't even be in the wild card anymore.
well, the Astros have taken first place.
Oh yeah, that's right. That happened yesterday. So, and
It actually happened the day before.
oh yeah, because they had less losses. Yeah,
Yeah, the Astros and the Mariners currently both have 52 wins, but the Astros have 46 losses and the Mariners have 48.
yeah,
The
yeah.
Mariners have been
So
on a 5-game losing streak.
yeah, the Astros went 17-6 into the Midsummer Classic, and we went 8-17 or something like that, like the exact opposite. So
Yeah. So let's start talking about the trade deadline because that did we want to talk about the MLB draft a little bit? Did we cover that last week in the show? I can't remember.
I don't think so. We might have touched
I
on
think
it,
we
but
might have touched on
that's gonna be all you know a lot more about that than I do. So
Well, let's skip out on the MLB draft because we don't even know if half of these guys are gonna ever make it to the bigs.
yeah, exactly
I
too.
think I saw a Facebook post that had like a stat, and I think of like the draft picks that make it to the bigs,
Yeah.
the team that had the most draft picks over the past 10 years to make it had like 24%.
Wow. I mean, 1-4, but I guess it is like a international sport as well. So
Yeah, but I mean, you're picking like 20 guys. You're picking like 20 guys, and only a quarter of them even are good enough.
yeah,
That's
it's
a
pretty
real
crazy.
scary thing. So we'll skip the MLB draft talk for now, so until we know what they're gonna end up doing down the road.
Yeah,
Let's
absolutely.
circle back to the trade deadline because that's what everybody is really thinking about right now.
Yeah.
We got a lot of teams up here that are potential buyers and only like a handful of potential sellers at this point.
Yeah.
The White Sox are obvious sellers. The Blue Jays should probably be sellers. They're 10 games below 500 right now and just a general mess.
Yeah.
The A's and Angels should be sellers. What do you think about the Rangers as sellers? Because right now they're 6 games below 500, but they also won the World Series last year, and it would be pretty jarring if they just decided to start selling pieces in the middle of trying to defend their championship.
Yeah, I don't think the Rangers are sellers. They might move on from Scherzer. They might try to get someone for Scherzer and the other guy who's been on the IL basically all year. Just because Scherzer came off the IL last year and then just went back on it.
I don't mean DeGrom. DeGrom's injured right now. Are you talking about somebody else?
DeGrom. Yeah.
I don't think they're going to get anything for DeGrom. He's locked up, I think, well past this year. So
Yeah, so I think I saw that the Scherzer and Evaldi, they might try to get someone good for those guys and ride it out with the pitching that they have, especially since Kirby Yates is pretty much locking it down for them too.
Yeah, if they sell, they got to move Yates because he has come back with a
Yeah.
vengeance.
Yes, he has. That's, I guess, the splitter has changed his whole career. He added it, and it's been his most effective pitch. So,
The splitter
um,
seems to be a very common pitch that people are going to right now. I remember Roger Clemens added the splitter to his arsenal when he was aging, and that really added life to his career.
yeah, I mean,
Also-
George Kirby has a really good career still to come, but he's really starting to get a grasp on that two-seam fastball, probably from talking to um, Luis Castillo. But that was fun watching him throw that the other day.
And in the National League, of course, that's a complete guessing game on who's going to be sellers outside of, the Nationals, who already got rid of Hunter Harvey, of course, last week,
Yeah,
the Royals. And then, the Marlins are definitely going to be sellers. They already sold a rise to the Padres months ago.
yeah.
And the
Which kudos to the
Rockies.
Padres for they probably got him for a much better deal than they would have if they would have waited. So,
Yeah, and apparently they got the Marlins to pay up the entire salary for this season
oh,
for
even better. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, what's his name's job's on the line now that the owner isn't there anymore to protect him for the Padres. So,
Preller.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, that's a tough situation that they're in, but they're gonna try.
yep, that's for
The
sure.
Rockies, of course, are perennial sellers, but we don't really know what pieces anybody would want on that team
Yeah,
outside of maybe Cal Quantrill, but he's kind of a mid rotation guy at best.
yeah, I would
Fat
agree with that.
innings eater. Well, let's go back to the Mariners. Do you think if they were buying instead of selling, as you think they should do,
Yeah,
what do you think they would do to buy at the deadline?
I'd like to see him buy Isaac Paredes. Plus power, plus batting. Your outfield, you got good defenders if Mitch Haniger isn't out there, and speedy people on the bases. I think that your pitching is fine, except for I would love to see you get a left. I would love to see them go after one of the lefty starters from the Angels because they could probably get one of those guys for cheap, and they just need
Mhm.
him for this year. Tyler Anderson would be good, or it's like Santiago or the other lefty that they have starting. One of those guys, and Isaac Paredes, I think, is who they should buy. Paredes will give you a solid third base with plus offense, which is what you need. Josh Rojas can play the outfield and second base. Or you can just move Josh Rojas to second base. I think he should be an everyday starter on the team. Why they let Luke Raley take every at bat and are like literally babying him with lefties is, I guess they're seeing something I'm not, and obviously, they're making the big decisions and can see a ton of more metrics than I can. But I think Josh Rojas is your second baseman. Isaac Paredes is your third. You're not going to be able to move on from Ty France this year. But eventually, I mean, he's just kind of nosediving towards the ground right
Yeah, I
now.
was very surprised to see Ty France just go from a solid player into the muck.
Yeah, I mean, and apparently he went to Driveline to try to fix something, but now the best he can do is just stand close to the plate so he gets hit. So
That's interesting with the standing close to the plate because I think everybody is standing close to the plate now, and that's why we're seeing so many of these wrist injuries.
yeah, I mean, it's the easiest way in a season where batting averages are down, down, down. The easiest way to get on base is just take a plunk. So
Do the old Roger Doran there. What do you think? What do you think the Orioles are gonna do? Because they're a team that has they're an enviable position because they have so many talented minor leaguers, but they don't have room to put them there. And they're also in a position where they are in a legit win now mode. And
I
they
would get
have desperate
yeah,
need for pitching. I think starting pitching is where they got to go.
yeah. I absolutely agree with you. I think they go out and take a chance on Crochet, spend money to. I mean, the Tigers probably aren't going to trade Tarik Skubal, but if anyone has the talent to make someone look at trading the possible Cy Young winner, it would be the Orioles.
And the interesting thing is that the Orioles last year traded for Jack Flaherty, who's on the Tigers. And Flaherty's the pitcher that, he's been dealing with a bit of a back issue right now.
Yeah.
And he's a guy that's going to get traded at the deadline. He's on a 1-year, $14 million deal. Somebody's going to pick him up. But
Yeah.
Orioles would be the perfect fit. But they also had him in the locker room there last year, and he was awful. So
Yeah.
I don't think they would just do that again.
Yeah, I don't think so too. They'll probably try to go grab someone else, honestly. I mean, Crochet seems to be, the obvious choice. But we'll see what they do because they have the talent to trade and they have the talent to win, and pitching is what they need and hitting is what they have. So as far as a team lined up to be the most successful at the trade deadline and get what they want while giving what they have excess in and don't necessarily need, that team is set up the best out of any other team in baseball right now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they could maybe go after a couple of the Marlins starters. I think they've been talking about Jesus Luzardo being traded for ages now.
Yeah.
What do you think about the
They
Cubs?
can go after anyone.
What do you think about the Cubs selling pieces at the deadline?
Yeah, because they looked. Oh man, that's a tough one because they looked good.
But they're 10 games out of the division now.
Yeah, and you got good starting pitching. So yeah, I guess I'd see them selling. They'd probably beg someone to take Corey Bellinger or Cody Bellinger. I don't know how much you could get for Dansby Swanson anymore, but
I think that contract's too prohibitive to move him.
yeah. Who do you think they would move?
Bellinger seems like the big one. Maybe they could get something for Kyle Hendricks. I know he's an expiring contract, but he also doesn't throw a fastball of any kind and just doesn't have any kind of reasonable pitching. I'm pretty sure the knuckleballer in San Diego throws a faster fastball than Kyle Hendricks at this point.
Probably true, honestly. Because they have a couple bright young stars, so it would be kind of interesting to see them. It would kind of make sense to just see them punt on this season and start playing their young kids to get them experience and see what they can do next year. So
yeah, maybe they would trade some of their bullpen pieces.
Yeah,
because everybody's gonna want bullpen guys.
Yeah, you can never have enough, it seems. So Jerry went out and got some 30-plus bullpen person who got DFA'd. So
And we are running up against it this week, so we'll circle back next week and talk more about the trading deadline. And I'm sure there'll probably be some moves done this week.
Yeah, help us out, baseball. Come on.
Any closing thoughts, Shane?
No.
All right, well that does it for today. It was nice talking to you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.